Did you know that the S&P has returned a 12% ROI over the last 100 years? S&P 500, what is that? Hey taxpayers, it's Tiffany Gonzalez CPA here, and we're back with another installment of What is That?, where we discuss key financial term and topics you may have heard, but we make them super easy to understand. Today, we're talking about the S&P 500, also known as the Standard and Poor's 500. It's one of the most respected index funds. Standard and Poor's actually grew out of two companies. Poor's Publishing was a publisher of railroad industry guidebooks back in 1868. And the Standard Statistics Bureau, which was founded in 1906, used to publish financial information on companies. In 1923, it released its first stock market indicator, which contained 233 companies. Poor's Publishing actually issued its first rating back in 1916, just a few years earlier. And it wasn't until 1941 where these two companies merged. The S&P 500 is the stock market index that represents 500 of the largest companies in the US. It's widely regarded as one of the best representations of the economic health in the US. The index includes a diverse range of sectors, from tech, health, financial, consumer discretionary. So it's really a broad gauge of the overall market performance from these 500 large companies. Now, the S&P 500 is market cap weighted, which basically means that the larger the company is within the 500 companies, the more weight it holds, the more power it has to move the market indicator. Now, the selection of which 500 companies are part of the S&P 500 is a committee within the Standard & Poor's company that determines, based on a set of factors, whether a company should be added or removed from the list. They look at things like market cap, liquidity, how long they've been on the stock market, and a long list of other things. It's important to note that being listed within the S&P is something of a prestige for a company because it validates them. It essentially says they're a significant part of the health of the US economy. The index, S&P 500, is also used by a lot of investors to benchmark other investments they have. They'll say, well, how does this compare to the S&P 500? Is the ROI greater or less than? The movements of the S&P 500 are closely watched, not just by taxpayers and investors, but also by economists and policymakers. Usually when the S&P 500 has gone up, it signals to investors a feeling of optimism. And when it goes down, there may be some pessimism or uncertainty in the market. Because of the index's long history, the fact that it goes back to 1926, we can look at so much historical data from the US stock market. Now, while the S&P is a great gauge, critics will argue that it's heavily weighted towards these big tech companies, and that it's not considering small businesses, which tend to be the future of the United States. That's why there are other indexes out there, like the Russell 2000 or the NASDAQ. These other indexes focuses on different criteria so that when we look at indexes, we can compare one to the other based on the underlying companies they are considering within their index. We hope you enjoyed this latest installment of What is That? Hit the like button, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook at Accounting to Scale. Until the next video, your favorite CPA, Tiffany Gonzalez.